I had somebody today oh, pardon me. Just going to clear this out for a second. Cool. Just a download of some information there that probably will show up in this video. The information doesn't come through in words, it comes through in energy and in light, and it transfers into consciousness as symbols and verbiage and words and things, different things. It's like a knowing. It's like a script, like a story, and you just sort of, I guess it's like remembering a story. Everything's part of it, including the surprise at remembering, or the, I don't even know what you'd call it. It's like there are prompts, and there's these, there's a lot of light at the moment. There's a lot of light. The last few days, my head has just been, the top of my head's been going crazy. But I wanted to talk about, I had somebody, I don't know when they put the comment actually, because I was just going back through some of the more recent videos I've made. I had this kind of feeling that there was a few comments there that would probably be good to address, and as I look back, there was a couple of comments. Usually when I post a video within 3 or 4 days, that's about the maximal range that people sort of look at it and view it within, and there's usually the same kind of group of people that leave comments, which is a lot of the guys from our Zoom meeting, which is nice, and just different things. But sometimes I'll get comments from people that don't generally comment regularly, or perhaps haven't commented before, and all of a sudden I become aware that they have been watching my videos sort of off the side, or, you know, anonymously. That's a better way to put it. Been watching things anonymously, and all of a sudden they're beginning to get affected by the videos, not the content, obviously, because the content's illusory, completely illusory, but the harmonic that the verbiage and the words and the content represents, which is truth. And they're beginning to have experiences of things. And I had somebody, or I read the comment today anyway. Pardon me. Just had a big hot chocolate, always makes me
Feel sleepy in the body, like the whole body thing just feels like I need to curl up on the couch and have a snooze when I have hot chocolate. But anyway, the nature of the comment was that they are getting activated watching the video. Something is happening and they're feeling a certain way inside, and connecting with how they're feeling, I think, was the idea, in relationship to an idea of having recently been baptized, and the feeling from watching the videos as being a similar kind of follow on from that experience of the baptism. And I always recommend to people to go and get baptized, but it's one of those things that you just sort of feel it and it comes along at the right time in your process. And it's not like it's a ritual that you have to do at a certain time or place. It's like everything. You don't want anything to be set in stone, but if it looks a certain way, so be it. But generally, I keep things as loose and as spontaneous as I can, which allows for the mind to remain open about things and guidance to more easily flow through. So my response to the question was something pretty much along the lines of, yes, once you begin to become activated within yourself, as an idea of participating in your own spiritual purpose, your own spiritual progress, any time that you come into connection or contact with something that resonates on that same level, that Christ level, Buddha level, Krishna level, where the teaching and learning of the universal curriculum becomes like a living awareness. You're aware that every situation is purposeful. When you begin to see things that way, you do get activated by other things such as videos and whatever, and you realize, oh, there's something in that for me, and you begin to pay more attention. The universe presents you things and they sort of catch your attention as not as something that upsets your peace of mind, but in a sort of an intriguing way, or in a way where you know you have to pay attention, just as in the way, and I'll mention Tyna here because she presented this to me in the same way, but she knew that I was her teacher. Now, I've never had that privy. I've just had an understanding that kind of everybody is my teacher. And when I actually had my formal teacher, Ted, presented to me, he was nothing like what I thought a spiritual teacher would be. He was an ex-mafia drug dealer, found Jesus come good kind of thing, and had these profound experiences in relationship with the Course in Miracles, and his whole life was now, which is quite a common story in the spiritual realm. People who've had the down and out often find themselves face to face with Jesus. Pretty much similar story to my story. But anyway, I don't want to get along that. I wanted to get into healing today. And the nature of things, the nature of communication, being light, being mind to mind, looking beyond the form, because there is only one mind. Everything is me, as in Christ-minded or Buddha, God-minded, whatever you want to call it, dreaming this whole thing up, thinking this whole thing up. You are me, everything is me, or I should say I. It's all the one thing. Right? It's a singularity on earth as it is in eternity, or in heaven, if you want to look at that. Heaven being a heavenly state of mind, a peaceful state of mind, fostered through that notion of Christ-mindedness or Krishna consciousness or Buddha-minded. But once you start to see the nature of the singular self, even if it's only in one person's situation or an event, it kind of transfers to everything. Right? The nature of it is just so all-encompassing that you realize there's nothing that cannot not be that. So even when you're watching a video like this, you begin to associate, and probably more obvious watching a video like this because I'm actually telling you so, like it's it's like a big billboard on the highway saying, hey, you're perfect, So I'm actually telling you you're perfect, and the resonation of this, the expression of my mind that's coming through this avatar comes from an experience of knowing what perfection is and what you are, and speaking from that place, regardless of the words I use. Right? I'm speaking from a place of love. It looks like, on the surface, speaking from a place of teaching, learning, universal curriculums, forgiveness, all this sort of stuff. It's got nothing to do with that, really. That's a useful part of coming to realize that it's got nothing to do with that, but that's just a stage that you go through. So I thought we'd do a little healing session. I've had a few people saying to me things like, oh, my body this, my body that. I've got a rash, I've got a condition, I've got a disease, I've got a whatever. And I'm not separate from you in that. I've been there, done that. I know the routine. I know how that goes with regards to addressing all of these things as an action of faith, as an action of stepping into a moment where faith is required under a kind of a, what would you call it? A refusal to participate in remedies and fixes and medicines and all that sort of stuff that are presented to you in the outside world through doctors, physicians, etc., etc., etc. Now, caveat, I'm not telling you don't go and see a doctor or whatever, right? And I'll give you an example of something here that will help to sort of across the board explain that. I often, it's very regular. I often have people say to me things like, I'm on mood blockers, I'm been diagnosed as ADHD or bipolar or schizophrenic or whatever, and I'm on this medication to, and basically it turns you into a kind of a human potato where you just have no real emotional state. And I've had very close friendships with people who've been on these sorts of drugs, and it's really fucking devastating. Like it's not a solution. To me, it's not a solution. But sometimes, right now, and I have to say sometimes, I'll have people come to me with a condition or with a situation, and I say, I'm on these drugs, for anxiety, I'm on this for that. And Carrie is one of these people in our Zoom meetings, and she's recently gone off all her anxiety medication because she's learning to deal with it within herself. And I'm very pleased about all of that. But I often have people come, and sometimes you can just tell, it's like, all right, you're ready. There's a maturity about you where, as a spiritual physician, I don't know if that's the right word, as a spiritual doctor, as a spiritual something, there's this kind of feeling or a sense that when people come to me and they tell me things like that, I get a sense that that's no longer actually serving you. You've actually already gone past the point where you could have put all that medication and stuff aside. You just haven't realized it yet because you're existing in a state of slow time where you're still looking at past references for who you think you are now, right? But at a certain point, you realize all of my past references are not who I am now. What I am now, who I am now, if you like, is an awakening mind that is wholly present in this moment, right? Now, if I'm wholly present in this moment, I can't be nervous or anxious about the past or the future, and I'm learning to sort of regulate or educate myself to a practice of living in the present moment through not avoiding the past or the future, but letting it go through an action of forgiveness in my mind. I'm willing to forgive myself for thinking that such a thing as time exists when God is eternal and God is everything, therefore that includes me. I must also be part of that eternal state of what God is, right? The kingdom of heaven, if you like, the realm of the divine. And you sort of realize that sometimes people will tell you these things and you'll just know, it's like, well, hang on, you probably haven't realized where you're actually at yet in your own association as a transforming mind, as a transforming and as a self-educating, self-healing kind of thing going on. And when I tell people, it's like, you can probably, maybe ask your doctor for advice about letting go of those things, but it's probably time you let go of those things. And I've never yet had one person who's let go of their medication that has been had any detriment to their well-being because of it, right? Because the divine, the above to the below connection that I have is infallible. And I know that sounds like a boast, but it's not a boast. I mean, the divine nature of the Holy Spirit only sees healing in everything, and therefore, because God is omnipotent, that is the only purpose that everything has. Believe it or not, it doesn't matter, right? And this is the action of faith. By your faith alone are you healed. Now, I put the caveat in there to just check with your doctor with regards to all of these sorts of things, because there is a whole spectrum of things that goes on in the world and a whole level of participation with your own salvation that initially is subject to great degrees of variation until the teaching learning equilibrium begins to stabilize, until you have enough experiences of faith, enough experiences of forgiveness and transformation as witnessable effects to your thinking, that the new way of seeing and thinking and perceiving becomes kind of dependable. Right? Initially, people come to this and their mindset, their understanding of things is heavily outweighed in the negative or in the old dualistic yin-yang, better and worse thought system, sick and healthy thought system. And it takes a moment for that to sort of be unlearnt and for the experiential nature of reacquiring true vision to be learnt in a certain fashion where that witnessing occurs. But anyway, today I just wanted to do something. I'll keep it as simple as I can because a lot of you guys that watch these videos are new to this, and I know that I tend to prattle on a bit as if I'm talking to people that are contemporary with me and understand what I'm saying. And I'm constantly reminded when I have interactions with people that, holy cow, the ladder, Jacob's ladder, it's like I'm a fair way up now where I find call it an inestimable journey. Like there's no way, it's only ever a present happiness that indicates the applicable nature of realizing the journey. But if you looked at it as stages, evolutionary stages even, like there's one of the references from the Course is where Jesus says above all else, I want the peace of God. And he says, you only need to look around to see how few people this actually applies to right now. And I'm constantly, like I had a brother the other day who's been doing this for nearly 30 years and came to me with a quandary about something that I would have thought was just a very base level kind of thing. And I'm like, what? How can you still be stuck on that kind of scenario or that kind of perception when you've been doing this so long? And there's no judgment there. It's just more of a surprise and a reminding to myself of how important it is to try and be understanding that everybody's process is so individual And just because the Course in Miracles says it's a 12 months with a 365 lesson workbook doesn't necessarily mean that as soon as you get that 365 lessons, boom, shanker, you're immediately aware of everything. Right? It's just a beginning. And some guys pick it up really fast and some are really quite slow. But that all comes down to recognizing the value of the goal, of recognizing the value of the goal of inner peace. How much do you really want it? If it's kind of like on the periphery, it is going to take a long time. If your life is hell, and I wish that it's not for you, but if your life is hell and you've been through a lot, the value of the goal of inner peace is going to be a lot more than someone who's been born with the silver spoon in their mouth, so to speak. But anyway, notwithstanding all of that sort of considerations, I will try to keep this simple. So if you are somebody who's quite advanced or has been participating in our healing sessions in the satsang on our Zoom meetings, or if you would even like to join the Zoom meetings, just bear with me for a second. There's not really a hierarchy of healing in a sense, but there is a kind of a maturing as far as feeling okay about entering into a new kind of modality, a new kind of way of being and seeing and healing and everything else like that. And I've had people say to me, oh, this is a weird thing that you do. And, are you a cult or are you a religious sect or, it's like, I'm just Dave. I don't have any kind of criteria by which people are allowed to be around me or anything, or I don't have any kind of demand for money or participation, or you don't have to sell your house and give me the money, or I don't even know what cults do these days, but I had somebody who'd been in our Zoom group for a while recently go, oh, they saw one of the videos of minds communicating that I put up on YouTube, which is Christ-mindedness, mind-to-mind communication. We're not just these verbal bags of, diarrhea that, how's the weather today? Like there's whole other things that goes on. Einstein said we only use 5 or 9% of our consciousness, and the rest of it, what is it for? Like literally. So digging into the mind and discovering things like that, it's going to seem weird when you're not around people or haven't had experiences of it before, and you're going to want to try and classify it as something. But all I'm going to tell you is just try to keep an open mind. Just try to keep an open mind. Eventually, at some point in time and space, whether now, here and now with me as like an advanced teacher or whatever, which I'm learning to see myself as in a last kind of identity-based role within the framework of the illusion, still illusory, or whether it's 10,000 years from now after you've had another 5 or 6 incarnations, and maybe society and, across the board, the status quo of consciousness is raised up enough where people are just doing light sessions and stuff in the street and on the corner and whatever, and it's no big deal. Nobody even blinks an eye at it. But I guarantee you, if I hosted a light session and there was 10, 12, 20 people turned up today on a street corner, it'd probably be on the national news. It gets kind of, it's like, what the hell? Even in that video I posted, somebody made a comment, what is actually going on here? They could see that there was something going on that wasn't being translated through words or something. There was some, what is going on here? And I remember the very first time I saw a light session, I'm like, what the hell? Like, I just didn't. I had no reference point for it. People moving around like as if they were being moved like pieces on a chessboard by invisible hands, and noises and weird sounds coming from their bodies and like just laughter and all. It's quite a thing to witness. But we're not going to get into that completely. I want to just do a very basic run through of the spiritual principle of being still. and allowing the healing to occur. So imagine, I'm just going to paint a scenario here for a second. Imagine you've got a grievance. Maybe you've had it for years. Somebody did something when you were younger, or somebody owes you money, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Somebody stole your girlfriend, boyfriend. It's a grievance, right? It's this juicy kind of like hatred and whatever. Now, the physical world being the symbolic representation of a relationship you have with the divine, showing up in form so you can understand what the heck you're looking at, right? It's not about the grievance you have with that person, that situation, or that event. It's about the grievance you have with God. You think God's doing this to you, right? Always take everything vertical. Have faith, right? Always take everything vertical, give everything to God, let go and let God, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm looking at the nature of my divine relationship on earth, witness to through the windows of individual relationships and situations and events that show up in a way where I can understand how they make me feel, and therefore understand where it is, because I'm feeling a grievance, where it is that my thought system is off track and needs healing, right? Now, it doesn't need healing relative to the situation that seems to be the catalyst for showing me. It needs healing in the divine nature of my association with God. I think I'm separate from God. That's why I'm seeing conflict. That's why I'm seeing conflict out here. Right? That's why I'm having grievances in my world, because there's something in my thinking that's tempting me to want to believe in an impossibility. Because if God is everything, how can I be separate from God? It's impossible. It's like Jesus says, you're the spirit, not the flesh. It's like, aha, there's a major clue. If I am the spirit and God is spirit, I am created in the likeness of my creator as that spirit, as that being of spirit, of light. And the body then is simply the vessel that I have to use in this experience of attempting to understand what the heck is going on in an idea of, let's say, the fall from grace or the war in heaven and everybody got cast out and all this sort of thing. It doesn't matter what scenario you want to use, Adam and Eve, it all works, right? They're just stories that paint a picture so you can begin to see where you're at in your own relationship with the divine. Right? So I've got a grievance. I can't find one in my mind, obviously, but I'm just going to make one up. Somebody owes me $10 and I see them every day and they try to avoid me because, you know, they haven't got the money. They keep spending it on beer instead of paying me and whatever. And my grievance builds every time I see them. It's like, dude, you know, and I tell myself I should just let it go. It's only $10. But every time I see them the next day, there they are. And there's the grievance again. It's like I can't seem to let it go, right? That's because my awareness of the grievance and the depth to which it penetrates my psyche are two different things, right? Now, I often say there's no point offering a £2 prayer for a £10 problem, right? It's not that your prayers aren't heard and answered, but the integrity to which your prayer, and it has to come from the heart, the integrity of the prayer of the heart to which you're addressing the grievance through isn't, isn't present enough with you to allow you to truly see the receipt or the answer to your prayer. And if you pray and can't see the prayer answered, you know, like a lot of people say to me, I've been praying and nothing's happening. I used to have that thing, right? I'm praying so hard and nothing's changing. Right? Don't offer a £2 prayer for a £10 problem. So what we're going to do tonight in this video is learn to be still. Okay, and you'll find this very, very helpful. So I'm going to identify my grievance. There it is, $10. God damn that person, bloody hell. And I've got all this story going on. It's disturbing my peace of mind. They're living rent-free in my head every time I see them. They bloody smirking at me and making it worse. right? So whatever it is, if it's a violent grievance or an abusive grievance, whatever, you can use that, whatever, as long as you feel comfortable to use it in this example, right? Doesn't matter. If you think you don't want to look at that yet, don't want to face it yet, then maybe just step back from what seems obvious and work on something smaller. Yep. So I've got my grievance. I've realized I can't do anything about it. As much as I've tried to let it go, as much as I've tried to forgive that person, whatever, it's still there. Right? It's not going anywhere. I need help. Right? That's the admission. I need help. I need help from above, not out there. I mean, maybe you go to the person and say, look, this is really doing my head in, and you explain yourself, and maybe it all resolves nicely and whatever, and that's all good. Maybe there was some misunderstanding, whatever, but whichever way you choose to address things, internally or externally, it's all perfect, but we're learning through our spiritual work to do things internally, right? Because the kingdom of heaven is within, and to access it within, we have to learn the power of our internal faculties of mind to, one, deceive ourselves about being willing to forgive, right? My ego will always tell me that I'm willing to forgive, but not really. I'll forgive, but I can never forget. Well, that's not forgiveness, because forgiveness cleans the slate completely. You won't even remember what the grievance was. In fact, you'll be grateful to that person, right? That might sound a big step to take from where you're sitting and listening to this video, perhaps. But I've got my grievance. I've decided that I need help, right? Step one, step two, grievance, help. And my decision for help is to pray. I'm going to ask for the divine intercession in my mind. That is not for the healing of that grievance or that situation. That's just the downstream of the idea that I think I'm separate from God, which is what that situation is representing. It's a disturbance to my peace of mind. If I truly abide in God, nothing can disturb my peace of mind. So somewhere I must believe that I'm separate, and it's showing up for me to look at as this situation. The lesson is being presented for me to look at through this situation to see that my peace of mind is upset. It doesn't matter what by, right? Identifying it as the what by, however, will give you a good reference point for if you tell yourself you've healed it and forgiven it and let it go. And if it shows up again, you'll be able to see, well, this is the same what by. Last time, obviously, I didn't. Obviously, I wasn't really honest, right? But anyway, that aside, I need help. I've got a grievance. I need help. I'm going to pray, right? Now, the nature of prayer is people come to prayer often with words. But I'm going to tell you, God knows what you want before you even ask. Nature abhors a vacuum, which is Einstein as well. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you have a need, the universe will fill it, right? Which is basically the power of manifestation. If you have a need, the universe will fill it. False manifestation, obviously, is where you decide what you want it to be filled with. True manifestation is where you trust the universe to give you exactly what you need. More or less, better or worse, it doesn't matter. Try not to define it with those terms, but you get the idea. You'll never have more than you need. You'll never have less than you need, whatever. So I'm going to step into a moment of prayer. Maybe I use words, maybe I don't use words. And I'm going to talk to my dad. Hey, Dad. Hey, God. Hey, Jesus. My brother Jesus, Buddha, whatever. Any non-temporal reference, because your ego can't corrupt that, doesn't know what that is. Krishna, anything. Right? As long as it's a celestial reference and not a physical world reference. I like the idea of God specifically because the mind has a great trouble trying to identify exactly what God is, and therefore can't generally destroy or corrupt that sort of thing. But great God in the sky, spirits of the forest, whatever, it's a prayer, right? And I always come to prayer through the idea that I need help. I always come to prayer with an admission that I can't do this, but I'm willing to accept the help from on high, which I trust and have faith can do this. Because nature abhors a vacuum, right? So I'm basically opening my mind to the correction. I'm opening my mind to healing. So what's happening is, let's say I'm drawing a circle on the floor, in the desert, on the sand, whatever. I'm drawing this circle, or I'm stepping into a space, a circle space maybe, right? Where I'm devoting myself specifically to this action of healing. I'm asking for the healing of my mind that believes that it's separate from God, being represented by this upsetting experience, situation, whatever, bundled up in the grievance. And then I'm going to wait. I'm asking for the healing of my mind, and I'm going to wait. I'm just going to sit with my grievance for a second in this circle, and I'm going to allow myself to feel it so that I can give it to God. Right? When I feel my pain, when I feel that grievance, when I really get honest about it, that's when my prayer is full. That's when my prayer ceases to become lip service, and my mind that is offering the prayer, let's say in the idea of thought, and my heart, which is feeling how badly I want the prayer because I can feel how deep this grievance goes, they join together, and heart and mind work as one, and the prayer is effective, right? But if your prayer is just the lip service of the talking mind, blah, 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 I need a hand, you haven't really dug in for the integrity of the heart space to connect with that and offer that. And you'll know because what happens is you'll get up from your prayers, you'll step out of your circle, and you'll feel kind of empty about it. Right? When your heart and mind connect, when you allow yourself to feel, let's say it's the passing of a loved one and you can't deal with it, well, you have to go into it and allow that energy to be present with you where you can't deal with it, and to feel it in its entirety or to the max potential that you can, and scoop all of that 10 pounds of grief and sorrow and whatever out, not just the words, but the heart space as well, right? Scoop all that stuff up, hold it in your hand. Here, Lord, take this from me. I feel this so profoundly. I can't go on like this. I can't do this anymore. I can't hold this grievance. I don't want to. I need a miracle. Maybe I even need a miracle to want a bloody miracle. I'm probably so superficial about it. I don't know, right? And I have had people say to me, I don't know how to get in touch with my emotions. That's pretty common. Fair enough. You just be still. I had moments where, and we'll do this in a second, right? But I had moments where in certain situations, and I can't tell you what they are now because they've been healed. I have no recollection of the grievance or anything. But I do remember going to the beach and drawing a circle several times in different situations and sitting in that circle and refusing to leave that circle until I felt slightly honest, until I felt some sense of integrity, until I could feel it in here in my heart that I was really meaning it and not just lip service. And if you had to walk past me on the beach, you would have seen somebody very uncomfortable with pins and needles in their legs and their legs going numb, sitting in a moment of silent prayer. But usually I went to the beach at night when there was no one around. There's no show or anything. So there's a moment of stillness. I'm going to sit there in my circle or kneel there in my circle or whatever it is, however you present yourself to God through that prayerful sort of appeal or penitent sort of appeal. And you wait. You wait until you can feel it. It's like this grievance goes back years, this particular $10. That was 5 years ago they borrowed that $10, and it's like, all of that anxiety over that 5 years, every time you think about it, see the person, whatever, it builds up this story. It's like compound interest. It just gets worse and worse and worse and worse, and until finally it's like you can't keep the lid on it anymore. All of that you want to get out. All of that whole energy, that's what it's worth. That's the 10 pounds worth over those 5 years. It's built up to 10 pounds till finally, like it's ridiculous to hold the grievance anymore. You don't even care about the $10. You just want to be free of the bloody bullshit in your mind that's going on about it. So you just be still and you breathe. And you allow yourself to feel it for a second, right? I can't deal with this on my own. I need help. I'm going to be still and make sure that my prayer is honest. I'm going to feel this in my heart, and I'm going to offer a true prayer, asking for the healing of my mind that believes I'm separate from God somewhere. And you might want to rewind to that bit where I explained how that is, and just wrap your head around that for a second, because that's the status quo with the situation. It's a celestial relationship, higher to lower, father to son, creator to created. The symbolic nature of the way it shows up out in the world, in the pictures and the forms and the associations, is just a catalyst for realizing that I still have a grievance or still have a disturbance possible to my peace of mind, which means somewhere I still believe there's perfect love of God and something else that's upsetting, which isn't the perfect love of God, which is impossible if God is everything. Hooray. So it gets quite simple when you see it that way. The outside is a reflection of the inside state, of the internal state, and that internal state is either going to be a state of wholeness, a state of Christ consciousness, Buddha-mindedness, Krishna consciousness, or a state of separation, which is going to be reflected in the outside world by the chaos and grievances and things that seems to be presented to me. Right? Don't avoid them, use them. Don't waste your pain. Prayer, I'm sitting still, I'm having the prayer. I'm starting to feel the emotions. Right? I'm starting to feel how angry I am about this, or how angry that person makes me feel when I think about them. And it's like you cannot not begin to associate your anger and project it out onto the person, because that's what you have been doing. The actual nature of the realization that it's actually not that person, it's a relationship with God, with the divine, takes some kind of maturity before you can sort of flip that and put the grievance where it actually is, right? Place the grievance where it actually is. Here, I have a grievance against myself because I'm actually doing this to myself, but I want to blame God, right? When you realize that you're doing this to yourself, the secret of salvation is I'm doing this to myself. You can begin to laugh at yourself. Stop taking yourself so seriously, because you realize, one, I'm just a figure in a dream here using this avatar, trying to make sense of something that has no sense about it at all, because it's an illusion. It's a dream. It doesn't matter at all. And two, realizing, well, I'm actually whole and perfect. What a funny thing what a funny thing, what a funny situation I find myself in, this conundrum, right? Now, through the prayer, through the healing prayer for the healing of the mind that believes it's separate from God, I'm going to be still, feel that emotionality, and as I give it to God, take this, Father, please take this from me. I have no use for this. And I remain in stillness. I remain in stillness. Be still and know that I am God, said Jesus. Right? I remain in stillness and I wait. I've asked for the healing. I've offered the prayer. I'm feeling it. I'm offering it. I'm sitting in my offering. Right? I'm sitting in my willingness to forgive myself for what I think is going on, and for the relationship that I have with God, which I've tried to corrupt or have been doing to myself. I'm forgiving the whole thing across the board. At least I'm willing to forgive it, right? And that opens the floodgates. That allows, that little bit of willingness allows to lubricate the sides, maybe. I don't know if that's a great picture. But all of a sudden, that emotionality, you'll find that it starts to rise, okay? Now, when people say to me, I've been watching your videos and it makes me feel something, that's what's trying to happen, right? That thing that you're feeling, that you're trying to qualify and quantify about why is this video? It's not the video. The videos are all predicated under the auspices of healing. What you're feeling is your own healing attempting to occur, your own healing, and you push it back down and go, oh, what is this? What is this? And by your analysis of it and your attempt to decide what it is, you actually push it back down again, right? Just go with it. Just let it happen, right? So when the emotionality, you're drawing, sitting in your circle, you've been praying for this grievance thing about God and the person playing that part for you to show you that you have a grievance with God. Thanks for showing me that, right? There's the gratitude. You begin to feel that emotionality rising up. Now, that can rise up and feel like intense anxiety. It can feel like anger. It can feel like all sorts of stuff. Try not to label it. Just feel it as the energy that it is and let it come up. And it'll come up. It'll probably get stuck around your throat here somewhere. You'll feel it, right? In the Eastern traditions, they call it Kundalini. It's not really anything particularly other than dark light being released. Your whole body, your whole cellular association is a fabrication of a dense light or a dark light or a slow light vibration that is maintained by the mind, projecting it out through anticipation and memory. And that begins to all get reconfigured through the action of prayer. And as you begin to release the emotional defense against realizing the truth of yourself, which is what happens when the grievance is forgiven, it reacts through the body as energy moving and releasing. We call that emotional release, emotional energy. Just breathe, let it come up. You might find you start coughing, spitting, vomiting. You might start laughing. You might feel it in the top of your head. You might, like, all sorts of things can happen, right? But stay in your circle until it's done, and you'll know when it's done. Right? You'll just know. Right? Let go of the need to know and you will just know. All right? I can't do this by myself. I need help. I'm going to go into prayer. I'm going to draw my circle. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to sit there until I feel it. I'm going to really get into this, like there's this honesty. I'm going to dig it right out, all the 10 pounds. Let it be a 10-pound prayer, because I'm feeling 10 pounds of emotional weight and it starts to come up. Let it happen. Let it go through the whole thing. If you get up and run out of your circle because it's too much anxiety, so be it. But at least you know what's going on now, and you can come back and try again later, right? You can come back and have another go. The only reason you run away is because it's something new and it feels, rather than associating that energy rising up with healing, you associate it with fear, because that's what anxiety's always prompted you to be, fearful, right? Now we're reinterpreting everything. We're going to use it for a whole different purpose called healing. And it takes a little minute to sort of get your head around that and go, no, hang on, this isn't fearful. This is just energy. It's just energy, right? Breathe. Let it come up. Like that. Thank you, Father. The nature of gratitude allows that energy to pass through quickly and unhindered. Right? This too shall pass. Right? So be still, breathe, let it happen. Be still, breathe, let it happen. Be still, breathe, let it happen. Let it happen. If you react to my videos, if you find yourself having some sort of reaction, try not to judge why you're having the reaction. Just be with the reaction. Allow yourself to feel it and go through that simple process. Be still, let it happen. Be still, let it happen. You'll know when it's done, because you'll stop feeling anxious. You'll stop feeling emotional. You'll start laughing. You'll be grateful. Be like, oh, thank God. I'm actually learning how to heal. Not that there's anything that really needs healing, because you're a creation of God and you're perfect as it is. But in your own mind, let's call it healing for a second, which is more akin to the idea of I'm beginning to remember that I'm actually perfect, that I'm spirit, not the flesh. All right, that's it. I love you. Be grateful always. An attitude of gratitude. How can you be upset about anything when you live in an attitude of gratitude? Grateful to everyone for everything, because everyone's always been playing a part for you perfectly according to your wishes. You're doing this to yourself. You know, you've been manifesting problems, situations, and all sorts of things to previously prove to yourself that you're separate from God. Where's God? Bloody God did this to me. And now you're realizing that's not true. Maybe with a little bit of resistance in that realizing, but it doesn't take long. Once you have a few moments of release and you start to realize that I have been doing this to myself, the gratitude starts to come back. Your life starts to become happy. Love you.